Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MTG Goldfish Podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, filling in for Chaz this week, who's feeling a bit under the weather, so feel better, Chaz. However, I am joined today by Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey, Seth, what's going on?
Not much. We got some interesting stuff to talk about today. We have unstable spoilers kicking off, so we're going to start off with that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about a big 3 standard GP weekend, and then wrap it up with tons of fish mail. So, Richard, I guess we might as well jump right into it. So, unstable spoilers started today. We actually got quite a few cards. Initial impressions of our third unset. What do you think?
So let's start with the 2 mechanics we know of. We'll talk about some spoilers, and then we can talk about our overall thoughts. But contraptions are here. Finally, the long-awaited contraptions. They were referenced in a Future Sight card, Steam Flogger Boss. No one knew what they did or what they were or anything. 10 years later or whatever, here we are. We have contraptions. They're complicated, so I'm going to try to TLDR this, but the rules are on the mothership. But basically, they're a special kind of card. They're artifacts. They have a new card back, and you put them in a separate deck. So you need to have a separate deck with a minimum of 15 contraptions. Minimum waived if you're playing draft, but basically the back of the card you have 3 sprockets. Okay, when you assemble a contraption, and there will be cards that let you assemble a contraption, you place it under a sprocket, and during your upkeep you have a crank counter which you start off on sprocket number 3, and during your upkeep you move it forward 1. So if it's on 3, it goes to 1. If it's on 1, it goes to 2. If it goes to 2, it goes to 3, etc. And then when you do that, any contraptions under that sprocket trigger, so they have abilities. So what you can do is either assemble all your contraptions, say under 1 sprocket, and then every 3rd turn, all your contraptions go off and you get some crazy effects, or you can spread them out so that every turn you get some contraptions firing. So those are contraptions. It's a little confusing, but it'll become more obvious once we read some of the cards. But basically, assemble is the same as casting, and then you basically get to trigger them every 3rd turn with your sprockets and clanks. So the other mechanic we have are the watermarks. So these, I guess, are similar to kind of the guilds that we've seen on Ravnica. Cards will have a watermark on them. They each signify different things, but now you have rules text that actually references these watermarks. And they gave us all 5. We have Order of the Widget, Agents of Sneaks, League of Dastardly Doom, Goblin Explosioneers, and Crossbreed Labs. Contraptions also have a watermark thing where the power and toughness is. We haven't really seen how that will play out, but Ravnica guilds basically and things that interact with these watermarks are here. So those are the new mechanics. Complicated, silver bordered set. So reminder, these are not tournament legal. You can play them, I guess, at the kitchen table or casual events. The lands are no bordered, so the lands are legal. So you can use the brand new John Avon lands in your standard deck, but all the other silver bordered cards, you can't play at F&M or at a PTQ or anything. It's just at your kitchen table.
Okay, so I think that both of these mechanics are pretty interesting. Contraptions in specific is a really neat idea. I'm a little nervous that it doesn't really tie into other Magic cards in any significant way. Like you mentioned Steam Flogger Boss. Like, obviously that's kind of a tie-in, and Steam Flogger Boss is reprinted in the set, but it's kind of parasitic in a sense. The watermark mechanic, though, is actually kind of exciting to me for casual play. There's some pretty interesting and powerful, potentially powerful cards, Lords and Soul Lands and stuff. And there's actually quite a few watermarks. You have Phyrexian watermarks was one of them. All of the Dragon Lords from Dragons of Tarkir have their own kind of hordes with watermarks on them, Ravnica guilds, as you mentioned, the Kanza Tarkir guilds. So there's a lot of watermarked factions in the real world of Magic. So I think that's kind of a neat tie-in. Like, I still don't know exactly who does this or what playgroups will allow these cards to see play, but I could definitely imagine people building watermark tribal decks using like Dimir from Original Ravnica, Dimir from Return to Ravnica, along with some of the new Watermark Matters cards.
Yeah, and I don't know what the official rules are, but I believe the Magic Story cards are watermarked. F&M promos, the old ones with the F&M stamp thing, like, is that a watermark? I think those would fit in here.
So, interesting to know if you're thinking about this stuff. I learned today while researching this, there's actually a search on Gatherer for marks. So you can search by watermark on Gatherer if you want to build around them. And it doesn't have promos listed, so I don't know if that means they're legal or not legal, but it does have a bunch of different watermark options if you want to try to build watermark tribal.
Well, good news is this is casual and not sanctioned, so I'm going to declare F&M promo watermark a real watermark. Okay, so let's talk about some of the cards. So, Steam Flogger Boss. In case you all forgot, right? Future Sight. This is the thing that kicked off Contraption, so we might as well read it. 3 in a red, 3/3, Goblin Rigger. Other Riggers you control get +1/+0 and have haste. If a Rigger you control would assemble a contraption, it assembles 2 contraptions instead. So you get to assemble double the contraptions. Let's read a card that actually assembles it. Steam Flogger of the Month. 3 red, 3/3, Goblin Rigger. When Steam Flogger of the Month enters a battlefield, it assembles a contraption for each contraption you control.
Seems powerful. I mean, if you can get a few contraptions going, you can double them up. It's like the doubling season of contraptions.
Do we have a card that just straight up assembles?
There is one.
Finders Keepers.
Yeah, there you go.
5 in a black sorcery. Destroy target creature, then assemble a contraption. So you pay 6, seems like a lot. You kill something, and then you take the top card of your contraption deck, put it under a sprocket, right? And then during your upkeep, if your clank counter is on that sprocket, it triggers. So let's actually look at some contraptions. Dog Snail Engine. There's no converted mana cost because you don't cast it, right? It's an artifact contraption. When you crank Dog Snail Engine, target player gains life equal to the greatest power among creatures you control.
Okay.
Is that worth going through all that trouble to, and then cranking this every third turn? I don't know.
Probably not. I think that the contraption deck is going to be about getting a ton of contraptions on the battlefield. I think that's going to be the idea. It's not so much that any individual contraption is going to be that powerful, but if you can get this whole machine of contraptions with like 8 or 10 or 12 on the battlefield, then all this little free value is actually going to add up to doing something really sweet. Right. I think that's the idea.
That was an uncommon. So let's try taking it up a notch to rare. We have BB gun. B as in the animal bee. So BB gun, and you have what looks to be an anteater shooting a gun with bees flying around. Whenever you crank BB gun, until end of turn, target creature gains pay 2. This creature fights another target creature.
That could be good if you have, like, I don't know, something massive on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. And
I could see that working.
We have Hard Hat Arena. Whenever you crank Hard Hat Area. Whenever you crank Hard Hat Area, roll 2 6-sided dice. Hard Hat Area assembles a number of contraptions equal to the difference between those results. So if you roll like a 6 and a 1, you get 5 contraptions.
That actually seems pretty powerful, because then you could just dump all those new contraptions on the next sprocket that's about to fire and get all those abilities the next turn. Because I think we should make it clear, crank means when you move that counter to the next sprocket, right? That's kind of like the shortcut word is crank for that process.
No. So crank is when the contraption triggers. You move the counter to a sprocket and then you crank everything under it. So it's basically like trigger.
Okay.
So when this thing triggers, you get to roll dice and assemble a whole bunch of other things.
That seems really strong if you're playing a whole bunch of contraptions, if that's the point of your deck. That seems like the most powerful one to me.
Yeah, you want to talk about RNG. So either it does absolutely nothing, or it can dump 5 contraptions on the next your next sprocket trigger thing. So it can swing games pretty wildly, I believe.
There is definitely a lot of variance with contraptions because the deck has to be singleton, they said, the 15-card contraption deck or 15-plus card contraption deck. So they're all singleton, and it is a normal deck. So it's like face down, you get a random one off the top. It's not like you get to choose which one. You're not tutoring for the perfect contraption. So it seems like it's going to lead to some really swingy, crazy casual games. Just the mechanic in general and Hard Hat Arena.
Okay. Moving on, we have Stamp of Approval. So this is a watermark card. It itself doesn't have a watermark, but it deals with watermarks. So it's 3 converted mana costs, 3 generic mana because it's an artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a watermark. Creatures you control with the chosen watermark get +1/+1. So
it's an
Dimir
uncommon.
Tribal. I forgot what the Khans of Tarkir. What are the Khans of Tarkir tribes called?
Like Temur and are they wedges? Wedges, yeah.
Are they after the Dragon Lords? I don't remember.
No, Dragon Lords have their own. There's actually like an Ojitai, Kolaghan, etc. watermark. And then there's like Temur watermarks.
Oh. Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of watermarks actually in that block.
And then, of course, you can choose the new unstable watermarks as well.
And maybe like a promo tribal would be awesome. Like I think that's one of the sweetest ideas if your playgroup allows it. So I think that sounds
it's
really
the most
sweet.
Expensive deck that does nothing. All right, let's talk about some other cards. Actually, this card's pretty cool. Let's talk about this first. Water Market. It's a land. You tap it, add 2 colorless mana, spend this mana only to cast cards with watermarks. Is this balanced or no?
I don't know. Like, it's so hard to judge power level of these cards because they're not tournament legal. So the context is just so hard. I would say no. Like lands that tap for 2 mana are usually broken, but as far as building a fair one, this might be about as close as it gets since watermarks are pretty narrow.
Yeah, and usually watermarks are multicolored. Usually they're like some tribe or faction or something, and they require lots of colored symbols, so maybe this is okay. This is also not legendary, so this could be Eldrazi Temple where you draw 4 in a row, cast your 8-drop watermark, and win.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Hangman, black, 1/1, human villain. Have we had the villain creature type ever? I don't know, but that's pretty cool. As Hangman enters a battlefield, secretly note a word with 6 to 8 letters. Pay 1, target player who doesn't control Hangman guesses the noted word or an unguessed letter in that word. If he or she guesses wrong, put a +1/+1 counter on Hangman. Any player may activate this ability. When a player guesses the noted word or all of its letters, sacrifice Hangman.
It's a really sweet design. Like I like the design of this card. It seems really fun. It's like top down the game Hangman. As far as being powerful, it seems like if you pick a really uncommon, hard to guess word, this could grow pretty big. It could be just like a 10/10 for 1.
Yeah, or so politic shenanigans. You can just have someone pump your Hangman up, like purposely guess wrong. I was actually reading the Reddit thread on this. Rules lawyers have like come in. This doesn't actually force you to play Hangman because you don't have to tell the person where the correct letters are. Right? All you say is like, yes, there's an A in here, and then that's it. So you don't actually have to play Hangman with this card. So some people are calling for errata to make you play Hangman. But it is a pretty sweet card. I think this is one of my favorite cards of the cards revealed. Playing a sub game of Hangman reminds me of, what's that card, like Sherazade or whatever, that's banned because you play a game of Magic within Magic.
Oh, yeah.
You just drag this game of Hangman on forever and never let this end.
I didn't think about teaming up with someone to intentionally misguess to kill someone else with your huge Hangman. That actually sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like I guess you could. I guess you could. Oh no, I was like you could team up by giving them the actual words so they can kill it at any time, but you still have to do the trigger. You have to pay the one. So the person who knows the word can't actually kill it at will.
But anyone can activate the ability, right? Isn't that what it says?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, that works out then. So you can tell your friend the actual word, and then they have a safety valve for if you ever try to attack them, and then you just pump it up all the way to 2020 or 4040 or whatever, and just kill everyone, and then your buddy, kills it afterwards.
Now
I broke
really,
it. I broke unstable constructed.
I really wish we could play this card now because I want to play it for Commander Clash and tell Tomer what he thinks is the word, but is actually a different word.
I said the safe word. I said the safe word. It's wrong.
Gotcha.
It must be a voto fail. I don't know what's going on.
I think my favorite card that we saw today is the Squirrel, Earl of Squirrel.
Earl of Squirrel, 4 green, Squirrel Advisor. It's a 4/4 Squirrel Link. Damage dealt by this creature also causes you to create that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Creature tokens you control are squirrels in addition to their other creature types. Other squirrels you control get +1/+1.
This is like the ultimate casual card. I feel like whoever designed this had like a list of the 5 most popular things to casual players: squirrels, lords, tokens, lifelink, and just like mash them all together in one card. So I think it seems really sweet. Just this combination of things. It can be a token lord, which is cool. It can be a squirrel lord, which is cool. Squirrel link is a really unique ability. So I think they really nailed this card. I think it obviously couldn't work in Constructed. I feel like Squirrel Link is potentially really powerful and probably not something you want in real formats, but it's a really sweet card.
I'm pretty sure this is just straight up busted. It's not combat damage. It's just damage.
Ooh, so you can fight with your Earl
So
of
you can
Squirrel.
fight.
And then...
There are all kinds of shenanigans you can do with Earl of Squirrel to make like 1 billion squirrel tokens. So it might actually be so strong that people are disgusted by it and it gets banned.
Oh, you're right, because it doesn't even say player, so you can deal damage to other creatures. Mm-hmm. Jeez. Yep. Yeah, there's all kinds of I didn't even read it that closely. That's insane.
Any other cards? I don't think there are any other interesting cards. Hammerfest Boomtacular. Whenever you cast a spell with the Goblin Explosioneer's Watermark, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player, but it costs 5.
Kindly Cognition is kind of interesting. A 2-mana 1/3 that makes spells that refer to artifacts or contraptions in their rules text cost 1 less to cast, which means, in theory, this lets you play Tempered Steel, for example, at a discount, because it says artifact creatures get +2/+2. So I think it's just a unique formatting, like the way that it's worded does some really cool things and lots of possibilities. So I kind of like that one.
Yep. So now that we've talked about the cards, what do you think? What do you think of Unstable as a set so far, given the, I don't know, maybe 15 or so spoilers we've seen today?
All right, so I think it's cool, and I am trying to judge it based on looking through a lens where I know that I'm not the primary audience for this set, so I don't want to be too harsh on it, but I was hoping for more kind of callbacks and references to old cards. I'm glad they stayed away from some of the more cringy subject matter of some of the old unsets. We haven't seen anything like that, which I think is good, but I was hoping for more like references to old cards and stuff, and we haven't really had any of that. There's not one card where I'm like, oh, that's like the unset version of some card from the past. So I think, and maybe that stuff will still come as spoiler season goes along, and I still just keep getting stuck on the point of who is this set for? Like who play, like, let me say, if you're a casual player listening to this, will your play group let you play this? Like, I was a casual player when I first started playing, and we had free mulligans. We didn't know what formants meant. Didn't do any of the real Magic stuff you're supposed to do. But we still knew enough that you couldn't play silver bordered cards. Like, that was the one rule we would have, is you couldn't play silver bordered. So I'm curious where these cards fit, because they have cool mechanics, but I just wonder who gets to play with them.
Yeah, I'm pretty lukewarm on the set. So some cards I think are exceptional. Earl of Squirrel and Hangman stand out to me. But those cards are in the minority. Like there's a lot of cards with watermarks and contraptions and whatnot, and to me, it just feels like a normal Magic set. A little wackier, but not too wacky. So I don't like those cards. I think the biggest issue I have though is how parasitic this is. For example, you need 15 contraptions to play, right? That's at least 8 booster packs because each booster pack comes with 2 contraptions. You can't just buy a pack of unglued and slam it into your casual deck, or sorry, unstable, and slam it into your casual deck. You might not have the synergies, right? You actually need to play with a significant number of these cards to get enough contraptions, to get enough watermark cards and whatnot. And I think that goes against the design of being for casual players, right? Casual players are the ones that show up at Walmart, buy 2 booster packs, and slam it into their deck. And it's kind of hard when you have contraptions. So I guess it depends on what the rest of the set looks like. Maybe today we just got a ton of these because they're showcasing new mechanics. But I'm really hoping most of the cards are like Hangman, Earl of Squirrel, stuff like that. Just self-contained jokes that you can put in any deck you want and play with it, as opposed to having to build a cohesive contraption deck or something like that.
It's kind of funny. I feel like outside of probably Hangman and Earl of Squirrel, all the other cards we've seen so far, including the contraption mechanic, I think it could be in Conspiracy. Like, I feel like the cards are... A lot of the old cards from Unsets were pretty off the wall, and you're like, okay, that's obviously a joke. We never play that in Constructed. But a lot of these feel like they could be played in a real set that was tournament playable.
Yep, maybe that's their appeal to the kind of the spikes and the more hardcore Magic players that
But they're not tournament playable.
No, but you can play Unglued and you can play Ancient Tomb here with Watermark it. I don't know.
I almost wish they could have. I almost wish they made some of the set black bordered, and you could have played against the odds contraptions in Modern or something. I think the mechanics that we've seen they're not so far out there that I feel like they would break Modern or Legacy. So I think that maybe, I don't know if that would be possible, but I would love to see a half and half black and silver bordered Unset at some point. Where the really crazy cards are silver bordered, but then like Steam Flogger of the Month and some of the contraptions and stuff were technically black bordered, like a Conspiracy.
They should have just made the whole set black bordered and banned cards, kind of like the anti cards. It's like, yeah, this set is fine, just ban all the cards with anti in them. But I don't know, it might be weird showing up to F&M when you pull up your contraption side deck and people are like, what's going on?
I gotta ask you, Richard, are you gonna play this set? Are you gonna go to pre-release, or are you gonna play Unstable?
I don't know. In all likelihood, I would do the release event, depending on when they hold it, and do one, and that's it. But even then, that's questionable. I'm almost positive this will not show up on Magic Online, so that rules that out. Whether I want to drive 2 hours to go play Unstable, I don't know. But it doesn't have the allure of a standard legal set or Iconic Masters or anything like that. It's definitely a notch below in terms of my priorities to going out and playing this.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same place. I don't make it to normal pre-releases as consistently as I should, and I think I'm less likely to make an effort to make it to Unstable pre-release. Even though I do like seeing the cards. Like, some of the ones are really sweet, like you mentioned. Hangman and Earl of Squirrel, I agree. Those are my 2 favorite ones, so it is cool to see the new cards. It just doesn't really make me excited as far as actually playing them.
So you're going to show up to draft, first pick all the lands, and then drop and go home? What does this mean?
Yeah, that's not a bad plan. Like, I bet you could get your value back if you just rare drafted all the lands. That could actually work.
So have you looked at Unglued and Unhinged? Do any of the non-land cards hold any value? And what would you suspect those cards would be?
So there are 4 cards from the old Unsets that are worth more than $5, discounting lands and tokens. And they are all cards that are either referencing iconic cards like Blacker Lotus or Mox Lotus are two of the big ones, or they have some appeal for the real world. Like Ashnod's Coupon is a card that has your mana artifact that you sacrifice to make target player get you a drink. So I could imagine someone like taking that to the bar with them and whipping it out on their friends. So I could see why people would buy it. But otherwise, there's not a lot of value in the non-land cards. It's really the lands and the tokens that have the value. So I expect that that's what we'll see with this set, where lands will be worth a couple bucks. The tokens are apparently pretty exciting, all foil tokens, and only half of them are attached to cards from Unstable. The rest are supposed to be from old cards that are not in Unstable. So there could be some value in the tokens as well, but I don't have high hopes that Earl of Squirrel or Hangman or any of those other sweet cards are actually going to have any real value.
Yeah, the rock, paper, scissors cards I see quite often as well.
Have you ever seen anyone play these cards? Or in people's binders, like from the old sets? Like,
you mean the lands?
The non-lands. Like, where do these cards exist? I bought a lot of collections over the course of my time buying and selling collections, and I almost never got collections with cards from the unsets. It was like, I don't know, like they existed in this whole other world that no one apparently bought them at the time because they were in no one's collections. I just don't understand. I don't understand.
I mean, I actually have some uncards. They were actually in my deck. I think I have the chicken in White Weenie. It's like, I think it's like a 2 to cast 2/2 or something, and if you stand up and cluck, it gets flying. So as a kid, my play group played with Unstable, or I think it's Unglued cards, but only the ones that were quote unquote constructed playable, right? Like they had to be good.
They were like the spiky unset cards.
Yeah, right? So I don't know. I actually have some.
So would you actually stand up and cluck when you needed to get in those 2 points of damage?
Yeah, apparently that's what we did.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know. I'm definitely looking forward to the next couple weeks of spoilers to see what else comes out. I feel this set might be a little bit contraption heavy. We've seen, and maybe it's just day one, but 45 contraptions they've said are in the set is a really high number, and there's a lot of cards that reference contraptions. So I hope there's room for some more Earl of Squirrels and Hangman and stuff, and not just all contraptions.
Yeah, I really want more Hangman cards, because even Earl of Squirrel, if you replace Squirrel with any other creature type, no one cares anymore. It's because squirrels themselves have become a meme, but it could just be a pretty good lord for zombies or something. So I really want more Hangman cards where it's totally wacky and not magic related at all.
Any final thoughts on the unsets, Richard, before we move on to standard?
The prices right now on eBay are $80, so they definitely are slightly cheaper than standard. Maybe we'll see them go down more as they release, but they are slightly cheaper than standard, but at the same time it's still pretty expensive.
So remember, if you're thinking about buying Unstable, you get a land in every pack. The lands are going to be worth $1.50, $2 or something, and then you're going to get these foil tokens. So that's pretty much going to be the value. So even if all the Unstable cards aren't worth anything, there's a pretty solid floor, I think, to how much value you're going to get from a box. So if you want to play Unstable, in theory, yeah, you got to spend $80, but if you sell the 36 lands you get and whatever tokens end up being valuable, you're probably going to get $50 or something in that range. And then you spent $30 to run a draft with your friends or something. So it's cheaper than it looks when you consider you're getting the lands every pack.
Yeah, and it might be viable just to hang around your LGS and get free cards. Like, I'm positive there'll be players who will just buy a box, take all the lands, and throw away all the other cards. And I'm pretty sure you can just swoop in, get them, and play some Unstable. Because people always do that, right? They throw away their commons and uncommons and stuff. But basically with this set, everything that's not the land is like a common, right? So
I have to say I just love the flavor of that. How unsets, which like flip magic on their head anyway, even the value and how you open them is reversed from a normal set. Normally, you throw away your lands and keep your rares and mythics. Unsets, you're hoping to get lands and throwing away your rares and mythics. It's so fitting. Anyway, We had 3 standard GPs this weekend, Richard. One in Atlanta, one in Shanghai, one in Warsaw. Did you happen to catch any of the standard coverage? I think they broadcast the European GP in its entirety, and then when that one ended, jumped over to the American GP and ran from like round, I don't know, 10 or 11, whenever it picked up through the top 8. So did you get to catch any of it?
I did not watch any of it. I only have deck lists to look at.
So what's your impression? I caught a little bit of it, but not a ton. But what's your impression of the meta or the tournaments from the deck lists?
From I guess we have some top 16 and top 32s. It looked like what everyone expected. So the winners were Esper Approach, Teamer Energy. If you look at the deck lists, Energy shows up almost everywhere, like solid representation, kind of like the Pro Tour. You have some Ramunap Red. And then you have some, God Pharaoh's Gift, Esper Approach, those kind of decks. And then you have like the random spice thrown in. Ben Stark played a mid-range desert deck. We have a Thopter deck, Grixis Thopters in Shanghai. But pretty much it looked like the Pro Tour meta. Nothing really changed. It's just primarily Energy, a little bit of red, and then a sprinkling of decks that try to beat Energy.
Yeah, I think I just did a quick count. We got 64 lists altogether, 1 top 32 and 2 top 16s, and out of those lists, 31 are Energy lists in one way or another. So that includes like a couple of Pummeler decks, some Sultai Energy, and a lot of Teamer and 4-color Energy. So almost half of the decks are Energy based in one way or another. But there was some spice. We saw, you mentioned Grixis Tokens was a really sweet deck, Grixis Thopters, which goes infinite with Whirler Virtuoso and does some cool things. The Desert Red deck from Ben Stark is kind of a unique take, I guess, to some extent, like going a little bit bigger, although it's still very much Ramanamp Red. But you're right, it feels like the Pro Tour. Ton of Energy, a lot of Ramanamp Red, and then a bunch of like 1 and 2 of decks, God Pharaoh's Gift, Mardu Vehicles that are looking to compete with those decks. So I don't know. What's your feelings on standard based on this? Were you expecting a big change from the Pro Tour meta, or is this pretty much what you expected?
Pretty much what I expected. I don't know. It just feels like Cobblade. Were you around during Cobblade? I wasn't.
I wasn't.
So I only have secondhand accounts, but it seems like you can go through all this work to beat Energy, or you can just play Energy and get really good at the mirror. And it just feels like there's no silver bullet to stopping Energy, right? So you got to play some kind of meta deck and hope you dodge the bad matchups and then take down Energy, or you just play Energy and be better than everyone else at Energy. And it seems like a lot of the pros have just taken that approach.
So what's the end result? We talked a little bit, and we probably shouldn't go deep into it today, but we talked a little bit about it last time. Does this weekend, which basically just reinforces the Pro Tour outcomes and numbers, does this make it more likely, less likely that Wizards changes something? Or are we just waiting for Rivals to see if something gets shaken up then? What are you thinking going forward over the next couple months leading up to Rivals?
I think we're just waiting. I think we're just waiting on FNM attendance, really. It doesn't feel bad. There's always a best deck in Standard. Like, that's not something new. And, having a dominant deck is not new. We've complained about many decks in the past. I think what really causes Wizards to do anything is how much the community complains about it and what FNM attendance looks like. And at this point, not hearing too much because we're kind of getting swamped in spoilers. Maybe that's the secret. Release a lot of products, have people talking. Everyone just kind of ignores what's going on. But I haven't seen too much of an uproar yet, right? This is our first major result, so maybe the uproar will start afterwards. But so far, it's just kind of a wait and see. And really, are you excited to go play at FNM? And if that starts going down, I think Wizards will do something about it.
I think that's a big question. It's just, are people okay with playing against Energy all the time? I know I was tweeting about it a little yesterday, and someone tweeted me that they had played GP Warsaw, and they played Blue-White Approach in round 1, and then played Teamer Energy for the next 8 rounds on day 1, which sounds bad on paper, but if you're having fun and playing interactive games of Magic, maybe it's not like a miserable experience. So I think that's the question. Like, do we get to the point where people just get sick of playing against energy so often? And we're probably not there yet, but that is a thing that could happen. And like you said, maybe the busyness of this schedule. Iconic Masters this week, Unstable coming out in a couple weeks. Then we'll be starting Rivals spoilers. We don't even have a standard Pro Tour for Rivals. And then we have another Master set in March. So the community's focus is going to be very split. So maybe it'll keep from developing into this narrative about standard and energy and so forth, at least until springtime, just because people are focused on other things. But at this point, I don't think standard is especially healthy, but I'm fine with waiting until after Rivals to see what happens and then moving forward from there. And just to say again, like, how good Amonkhet and I think Ixalan too are makes me really hopeful for standard moving forward. I feel like Wizards figured it out and learned from a lot of their mistakes in Kaladesh block, but we're still dealing with the remnants of those mistakes, partly because of the change in rotation schedules. So we're still having energy in the format for another 10 months or whatever. But I feel like standard is going to be in a really good place once we get out of Kaladesh, if Wizards just keeps making sets that are like Amonkhet and Ixalan. Anything else on standard, Richard? Or should we move to fish mail?
Let's move to fish mail. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. So much value. Has green been too good in standard the past few years? Hashtag bring back Sphinx's Rev.
Well, I'm down with bringing back Sphinx's Rev, but I don't know. Green was traditionally really bad in standard, so I feel like maybe it deserved its time to shine, but it has been maybe the best color in standard over the past maybe 2 to 3 years, I think.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is green can do so much. Green can draw cards, green can fight to remove, and on top of that, green has big dumb creatures, and they're hard to remove as well. So I think the problem is they have too much of the color pie. But right now, the best cards in standard aren't... I guess some of them are green. Like Long Tusk Cub is green, but like Scarab God is not, Hazoret is not. So maybe now it's kind of balanced, but when you have stuff like... What's the tracker? Tireless Tracker. You know, that card was just ridiculous. It drew you cards. It was the biggest thing. It was like a must-remove threat, and it just feels bad. Same with Collected Company, right? You know, you basically have some kind of tutoring effect. You have card advantage. It's a spell on top of it. Like, green just has too much stuff going for it. So I think they just need to kind of tighten up their color pie. Like, make green the big dumb creatures, not the card advantage, crazy, resilient creatures that can fight as well.
Yeah, it was pretty weird to have green as the best card advantage color, which just seems very counterintuitive. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think Wizards is working through a lot of color pie stuff. We see red getting the exile card draw or the discard and draw card draw, trying to like expand colors that were traditionally narrow, and maybe it just went a little too far with green's card advantage recently. But I think they'll figure it out, and things will get back to where they usually are.
All right, next question is from Tom Bigwood. If I have recent standard cards, what's the best modern deck I can build with $100 in upgrades? Eldrazi, Spirits, Humans, Other?
I would go towards Eldrazi. I think $100 upgrades is not ideal. You'll miss out on Chalice of the Void and maybe Karn, but I think you can play a like semi-budget Eldrazi deck that would be pretty good.
Yeah, I also think Spirits is a good option. I guess it depends of your recent standard cards, how many of them are still expensive today, because that probably means they're modern playable. So the biggest concentration of those cards. Next question, Marcus the GM. What would a new version of budget Metallurgic Summonings look like for standard?
Ooh, watch Budget Magic tonight. There might be Metallurgic Summonings involved.
All right. Tactics Ogre, TKOL, did you like the first limited pod Pro Tour coverage? Also going over all 8 player picks and the website tool with picks.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
I actually didn't notice it was any different than any of the other ones because I just like loosely pay attention to limited. So yeah. Johnny Esports, do you think the Pro Tour will ever go to block constructed? Won't get energy that way. I personally really enjoy block constructed. It's just too bad no one plays it.
Well, wasn't the last Pro Tour Kaladesh block constructed? Boom. No, I hope not. That was always my least favorite Pro Tour of the year. I did not like block constructed Pro Tours.
Yeah, I never really liked block constructed at all. Like, it was barely played on Moto as well. So just having these weird formats just to show off the new set was a little strange. If they wanted block constructed, they need to push it to be kind of a top tier format like standard and modern, which I don't think they're gonna do. Next question, Young Cooter, is Encampment Keeper the house dog?
Encampment Keeper is way too mean looking. I would not want that to be my house dog. I think we need like a cute little chihuahua or something.
This thing has first strike. this is too strong. Unstable better have a puppy token. Just saying.
Ooh.
If there's ever a time to make a puppy token, it's unstable. Orcish Veteran, we have assembly worker creature types in standard. Any chance we see Mishra's Factory reprint?
Too good.
In Dominaria. No, too good? Too good for modern?
I think it's too good for standard. I think it would be okay in modern, although it would be pretty strong. But Mutavault was arguably too good for standard, and I think that Factory is often just better than Mutavault.
Why do you think it's too good for standard but not good enough for modern? I would think it's the opposite, no?
I think it would be good in modern, but I don't think it would be too good in modern because we already have like Mutavault and Creeping Tar Pit. So I think it would be playable and strong in modern, but I don't think it would be like bannable good. But I think that it would be like broken good in standard.
Yeah, it's just really strong, especially on defense. 3/3,
Yeah,
like a free 3/3 in standard is going to be tough to go through.
Yeah, I think so.
Next question, Magic Warrior 3. Do you guys think it would be better if stores were able to choose between standard and modern all year round for their PPTQs, especially now that modern is a Pro Tour format?
I mean, I guess it's nice for stores to be able to kind of customize their events for their players, because I'm sure it varies from store to store which formats are most popular, but I don't know. I guess I'd have to learn more about the details of it to have a strong opinion about how it should be.
Yeah, I kind of like just letting stores do what they want. Like, if your local community has no modern players, like, why would you be forced to, make a modern event? So as long as it's, like, sanctioned proper Magic, I think they should just be allowed to do whatever. Next question, Julio Han Lopez. Surprised no one made the joke, so I'll do it. Seth equals 6 Danish orphans in trench coat? Question. What? I need a background on this.
So this came from actually Magic Mike's cast. We're talking about, somehow I came up, and I think it was Aaron Campbell who said she doesn't believe I'm actually a real person. She thinks I'm 6 Danish orphans in a trench coat because she's never met me. So I guess that's the joke going around. But no, I'm actually real and not 6 Danish orphans in a trench coat.
All right, next question. Chris Menard, any concern WotC will avoid reprinting certain effects in standard because they won't play well with Arena?
Yes, I do have some concern for that, but I think it's way too early to say that will happen, but it's in the back of my mind that could happen.
I don't think that will happen. I mean, I think it's the same concern that they would have in general. Like, if they have a card, they're like, can we make this in cardboard? Can the printers handle it? Can Arena handle it? But I doubt it'd be something so basic like we can do it in paper but not in digital, because if they did, then Arena's a total failure already, which I hope it's not, because they just made it. Joe Seiss, considering the skewed nature of Moto listings, have you thought about having online only and paper only metagames? That's something we can try. So I've been taking a look at the metagame stuff recently. It's not where I want it to be. The way Wizards has restricted the decks has affected it negatively, I think. So I'm starting to figure out ways to make it more accurate or make it more useful, and splitting it may be one of those. Next question, legit games. Do you think we'll see Rebels soon?
I think we'll see Rebels again at some point, but I don't know how soon it'll be. But I like Rebels. They're a really cool mechanic.
Yeah. Wait, what's the difference between Rebels and Allies?
Rebels, I think, what I think of with Rebels is the pay so much, tap, search your library for a rebel of whatever converted mana cost, like that mechanic.
Oh, and Allies
That's
is
what
when something enters the battlefield, they all trigger.
Yeah, Allies is like slivers almost, but more enter the battlefield.
All right. Interplanar MTG, any advice on starting a channel, audio and screen recording and editing in particular?
I mean, spend time editing your videos. I think that's it's one of the boringest parts of doing a channel, but I think it actually goes a long way towards making the content more enjoyable for the viewers. So I don't know if you want like more specific stuff on what programs I use and stuff, you can always send me a tweet or an email or something. I'd be happy to try to help you out.
All right. Next question, Mint Black Lotus. To answer a previous fish mail, here are my picks for Dryad Arbor Cycle. So white, Endless Expanse, Plains Wall. Blue, Turtle Rock, Island Turtle. Black, Primordial Swamp, Swamp Ooze. Red, Slumbering Titan, Mountain Giant. And green, Dryad Arbor, Forest Dryad.
Those are pretty good.
It's actually pretty good. But the question is, do they have any abilities or are they just vanilla? Wait, does Forest Dryad doesn't have Forest Walk, does it?
No abilities.
Yeah, no abilities.
Just a forest.
Next question from R5X. Maybe this was asked already, but would you guys ever do a Patreon? We don't have a Patreon. Maybe we should set one up. But right now we have Premium. If you sign up for Premium on the website, it supports us. You can also subscribe on Twitch. That also helps out. Or buy some merchandise on our merch store. So those are ways you can support us. But maybe we'll set up a Patreon. I don't know. A lot of people keep asking for it. But I don't know what we would do for our Patreon followers. Next question. Dig through time. Time as in the spice time. I'm solely interested in Unstable for Plains and Forests. When should I buy my foil and non-foil copies?
That's a good question. It's actually a really hard question to answer because I don't know how much of the set will be opened. I think that's the big question. If the set's a smashing success, then I think you wait over the winter sometime, you pick it up. If the set is kind of a failure, then I think prices will rise quicker. So I think you got to really play it by ear and try to feel out at your local game store, like, are people buying this? Are they cracking boxes? I don't think that the non-foil versions are going to get significantly cheaper than they are right now. Like, they're around $2, maybe go down to like $150-ish. The foils, I haven't even seen price yet, so it's hard to say.
All right, next question. Jones BRP1. What the heck is Seth saying when he gets a new Twitch sub?
Welcome to the fishbowl, and then big Scoops cheer, which Scoops is the goldfish, for our new subscriber. Along with some username butchering thrown in based on whoever subscribed.
Turns out nobody has understood anything you said.
Nope.
People just watching, they're like, we don't know what this guy is saying, but it's okay.
They think I'm speaking like a non-English language.
Next question. QED 1729. It's been almost a year since the podcast has been on YouTube. When are you going to stop saying, and now on YouTube?
Probably this episode, since I forgot to say it and Chaz wasn't here.
Once Chaz gets an expression, it's over. He's going to keep that expression forever. Where do you think probably better known as Saffron Olive came from?
Yeah. I'm stuck with
next
it.
question. Destino, hey, if you were to sell your entire MTG collection, what's the one modern deck you would save and leave behind?
Probably like Blue-White Emiria, Jeskai Control, something like that. Also Free Win Red, one of those two.
If you don't know my answer, I'm disappointed in you all. It's going to be Jund. OG Magikarp is God. Your comment about Prolingo, Chain plus LSV, a lot of games have this, especially in Dota 2. I don't think it's a big of a barrier.
Oh, so we're not too inside jokey and slang.
Yeah, the 1 week Chaz isn't here. He's the only one that watches Dota 2, so I actually have no idea. But apparently other games do this too. Also from OG Magikarp, for Unstable, when making this set with Commander in mind, make prices of some silver bordered cards go up because they'll be used in playgroups.
I wish I had numbers on how many playgroups are okay with silver bordered cards. I just have no idea. I don't know. Is that common? Like, do you think what do you think, Richard? Give me a percentage of casual Commander playgroups that can you play contraption.deck? How many playgroups let you do that?
I think most playgroups would allow that. I think it depends on how weird the cards get. Like, if the cards become very weird and not magic-y, people will just kind of ban them for the sake of the game. But in the spoilers we've seen today, I think all of them should be legal in Commander. I wouldn't have any problems if someone played any one of those cards.
So then, I mean, I guess yes. Like, if any way that the cards have more demand would make their prices go up to some extent, but I think the lands are going to eat up most of the value, so I'm not sure that it really matters. I think even if they made good Commander cards, and some of them probably are good Commander cards, but even if they focused on making good Commander cards, I still think that the lands would eat up most of the EV.
Yeah, like that squirrel card auto-include in Commander, and if your playgroup doesn't allow that, then you find a new playgroup. Control for days. Has there ever been a standard deck that could compete in Modern without non-standard cards in it?
I think I've seen some people put up like 5-0 finishes with the Aetherworks Marvel deck. I think it was literally the standard deck and someone 5-0'd a league with it, but I've never seen one consistently do it. But some of them are close, like the Marvel deck.
Yeah, I think some decks will have a really good matchup. So like if you play against, I don't know, Burn or something, you might trounce them, but there will be other decks you just cannot beat. Like, I can't imagine you consistently beating Affinity or something with any standard deck. It's going to be pretty hard. Or like Lantern Control. I guess maybe now you can if you're just packing 4 braids naturally. Maybe you can get there. I think there are some decks that, given the right matchup, they're actually favored against the Modern decks.
I think that's true. I couldn't imagine beating Death Shadow with standard removal. Like, you just don't have like your Harness Lightnings and stuff, and then you lose and whatnot.
All right, have 12 energy, Harness Lightning, your Death Shadow. But Long Tusk Cub. What if you, like, after sideboard, you duress into Long Tusk Cub, and then you just harness energy and a braid? You just basically play Jund. I think you can do it.
It could work.
Tidal Wave 87. What do you think of an against the odds deck starring Living Lore? I feel this card can do spicy stuff.
It can definitely do spicy stuff. I'll try to add Living Lore to a future against the odds poll. It's a little slow since it's got to actually attack to do its thing, but it seems like it could do something
Have
fun.
we never played a Living Lore deck?
I don't think we ever have.
It feels like a deck that we should have played at some point.
Yeah, I don't think so, somehow.
Yeah. From Kyoji Takenouchi, what if the From the Vault Origins Planeswalkers had the SDCC art with color and a legible text box?
That would be cool.
I don't like that.
I would like that.
I mean, first of all,
No?
we know they won't, right? They gave us the cards already. But second of all, I don't like reusing promo art. I think it devalues the original promos. I think reprinting cards is fine, but you should not use like the special art you used for something else. You should either make new art or just use kind of the first printing art or something like that.
Well, maybe they should have just made new art that was like SDCC promos. I think that would be good.
Samson 533. What do you think if the Pro Tour was run like what's up? I don't know what it stands for.
World Series of Poker.
Yeah, it's the poker thing. Open entry, higher entry cost, higher payout, more money for better coverage. Same with GPs, except GPs winnings can be either cash or bonused up towards the Pro Tour.
I think that it would go badly. I think people already have a hard time playing $100 to play a GP. Could you imagine if it was, I don't know, $1,000 buy-in to play a GP? How many people would do it? It would just be all the highest level pros that actually felt like they had a chance to win. Like who is actually going to pay that amount of money?
Yeah, and we already have open entry in terms of Grand Prix and stuff, right? And they already cap out, at some natural number.
I do think it would be awesome to see a high stakes tournament. Like, I think
Isn't
that would
that
be
Worlds?
Cool. Could you imagine? Yeah, I guess. But even more high stakes, like $1 million first prize. People got to pay $50,000 to enter or something. I don't know. And it's like similar to Worlds as far as the number of players.
I don't want to see that. I think the game is, when people acknowledge that even if you're the best player, your chance of winning is like 55-45. Like, I don't know that you want to go wager, 50 grand for $1 million or something. It seems.
I mean, it's not any different than poker, though, right? Where people pay really high buy-ins for those type of tournaments.
But isn't their win percentage
odds.
much higher or more constant? I have no idea how poker actually works.
I guess I'd have to look. I guess I always assumed it was roughly similar, but I don't know for sure.
Maybe we should look into it. But I just assumed that it was more consistent in poker. But maybe you're right. Maybe it actually is literally the same. Last question. At 11 Vicious, what planeswalkers do you expect / want to see on Dominaria, if any at all?
I don't know what's associated with Dominaria. What characters?
Urza. All the OG Yawgmoth.
I guess all those would be
Phyrexians.
good planeswalkers.
Elish Norn gets her spark. I don't know.
Ooh.
I want to see Urza in some form or shape. If they somehow make it back to this plains without Urza, it could just be Urza's boots or something. I don't know, right? But it'd be cool if they could actually work him into a planeswalker card somehow. But in all likelihood, I think we're gonna see Jace. You're gonna just see like Jace, Chandra, and they're like, "Oh, what's this? It's Urza's staff. Whatever, throw it away, and then go fight some Eldrazi or something."
I bet they'll have at least one of the old classic characters. I think we will see Jaces and Chandras and the typical stuff, but they gotta bring back at least one of them.
How would they work that into the story, though? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, on that note, we end Fishmail. So if you have any questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll try to get to your questions.
So Richard, anything else on the way out the door this week, or have we reached the end of episode 148?
We have reached the end. More spoilers this week. The official MTG Goldfish spoilers coming out tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah, just more unstable. I guess we have to see what the feelings on teamer energy are going forward. A lot of people have questions, and no one has any answers. So we just gotta wait and see.
Also, Iconic Masters, Friday, in paper and on Magic Online. So if you have been waiting for Iconic Masters, finally get to play with it, do some drafts on Magic Online this weekend. Should be an interesting set. Usually, at least, the Master sets have good limited, so I'm hopeful that I can take a break from playing Ixalan Limited, which, I'm not a fan of Ixalan Limited, and do some sweet Modern Masters or Iconic Masters drafts. So keep an eye out for that, too.
Commander 2017 also releases on Moto this week.
Oh, we finally get to play Commander Clash Commander 2017 edition 3 months after the set release.
Finally, so get ready for all that fresh Commander 2017 content. But it's actually pretty good. They're just missing 4 cards, which was surprising. Surprising that they had such good coverage.
Oh, man. Well, we're kind of running late, but we didn't even talk about the big Moto announcements with selling play points and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
no,
next week.
let's throw that in. We should talk about this.
So, all right, on the way out the door, what do you think? This week they announced some big changes to Moto. The biggest ones, selling play points in the Magic Online store. At the lower values, you don't really get much of a discount, but if you spend like $100, I think you get $120 worth of play points or something. So that was one big change. Also, full sets in treasure chests are coming, I think, on Wednesday when they do the treasure chest update. So, Richard, thoughts on the Moto changes?
We've been conned, Seth. Are these just not event tickets that are not tradable now? Like, we've come
kind of feels
full
like
circle.
we came full circle.
Like, now that you could just straight up buy play points with cash, they're actually discounted, right? If you buy a lot, you get, was it 20% off? But you get a discount if you buy a lot. And now so you can buy play points, you play in events, and they pay back out in play points. But you do not, you cannot trade them anymore. You can't offload them. So we just got event tickets that are more restrictive. So I don't know about this. I don't even know what they're doing anymore. Why there are all these changes and why they constantly keep happening. Like, what metric are they looking at to make these changes?
I I really feel that we're seeing Moto become a testing grounds for Magic Arena in some sense. Like, I feel like they're testing out these different microtransactions and stuff like that they probably want to be the foundation of Arena, and Moto is a place where they can kind of test this stuff out in a real money environment while they're still working on Arena.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, but even then, it doesn't make any sense in the context of Arena because the way you earn money and stuff in Arena is different, right? You're gonna have quests, you're gonna have daily rewards and things like that. It's just, I don't even know what they're doing anymore. They're just causing everyone to be afraid of Moto. Like everyone's already like,
Yeah.
you know, already wound up over Arena. You know, the future of Moto is in question. And then they just keep throwing these random changes there, giving you less faith in the platform, right? Like when you have large bot chains changing their ticket buy prices by like 10% because of uncertainty, it does not make you feel good. So I think everyone is just uneasy and nervous about Moto at this point.
Yeah, the constant changes definitely don't help when people are already dealing with uncertainty thanks to Arena. So I don't know. I do really like the addition of sets into treasure chests. I think that's a way that they can hopefully keep the EV more stable, which has been one of the problems with treasure chests. Like, they do the update, it gets back to the point where they want it to be, about 2.5 ticks, and then it just drops down to like 2 ticks, which is not very good payout for prizes. So then they update it, add in some more expensive cards, get it back up to 2.5 ticks. It does that again. But maybe having the full sets in there will spread it out and keep it a little bit more stable. Hopefully.
It'll make for some pretty sweet treasure chest opens if you open a good set.
And I mean, the play point thing is good for players. Like, definitely, if you're someone who plays a lot of Moto events, buying 1,200 play points for $100, that's a pretty good deal if you know you're gonna spend that amount of money on events anyway. So definitely keep that in mind if you're putting money into the program. I think the promotion runs through January or sometime in January. So if you are going to buy event ticks specifically to play events with, it's probably worth it to buy the big play point package. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our podcast for this week. So, Richard, it's always been fun. Chaz, feel better. Hopefully you will be back next week. So, anyway, and until next week, everyone, this is the MTG Goldfish Podcast crew signing out. Have a wonderful week.